not super active anymore. You know, professional life has taken over, but you know, if you go back to 2003, 2004, 2005, the way that people talk about Brad now, for a little while, people were talking that way about Osyp. For established, you know, PTQ Grand Prix level formats, he was considered to be the best deck builder in the world for a little while.
We are underway here in round number 11. Lebedowicz is going to start off with a Nomad Outpost, a Mountain, and a Seeker of the Way. So Nelson knows what he's up against right away, and oddly enough, Brad is probably familiar with what he's up against as he's top 8 at a Grand Prix with Mardu.
Is there a standard Grand Prix? Is there a deck in standard that he hasn't top 8 at the Grand Prix?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. He can get it done with just about anything as he's got a Voyaging Satyr here. Now, one thing to keep in mind about Brad is he's not really a big fan of playing linear strategies. His Wild Slash will take care of the Voyaging Satyr, see if the way will come across for 3 points of damage. Typically, he doesn't like playing this style of deck, but clearly he's found a build that he likes quite a bit here in Growing Devotion because he wouldn't be playing it otherwise.
And this deck, you know, on the spectrum of decks, I guess it's more linear than most, but it's certainly not mono-red aggro or, you know, white-blue heroic. There's some more play to it.
The Frontier Siege deck that he played, you know, a couple weeks back on the Open Series, the first Open in Washington, D.C., Gerard Fabiano won with Sultai Control. He didn't even want to play that deck. He's like, the deck is relatively powerful, but it's so linear, I don't really have a lot of decisions to make.
Yep.
So I know he wasn't a fan of it then, didn't have a great tournament. You see Courser of Crewfix going to reveal planes here, but it was good enough. Lebedowicz has peeled a third land, which allowed him to, I believe, cast a Crackling Doom. It looks like it might be a Hordling Outburst, so we'll see in just a moment.
Looks like he's going for Hordling Outburst this turn, most likely with the intent of playing Crackling Doom the following turn.
Could also be just playing a Stoke the Flames, too, to get the Courser off the table, which is exactly what he'll do.
Pretty good turn.
Not bad at all.
And now Crackling Doom at the ready for Pelucranos or some other large follow-up.
Well, speak of Pelucranos, it will appear, and it looks like it'll be dying here in just a moment.
That's how you draw it up in the locker room right here. The way this game's going for Osyp.
Ready? Break.
Ready. Have fun on 3.
Yeah. Crackling Doom. Killer Pelucranos. Get you for a whole bunch of damage, so total will be 2. 3, 4, 5 from the Seeker. 6, 7, 8 total damage dealt that turn. Pass it back over to Nelson. Can Nelson catch up here? It's not like Brad's gotten up to a bad start. He sacrifices a Windswept Teeth. He'll search up for a land.
Voyaging Satyr into Courser into Pelucranos with Osyp missing his third land drop. That was Brad's opening.
Yep. See if he's got a Whisperwood Elemental here. That'll make things pretty difficult. He has a Genesis Hydra for 3. That's not too bad. We'll see what the top 3 cards are. That's a miss. So he just has a 3/3. Lebedowicz going to quickly untap. He'll take a draw step. It's 25-7. 25-7, excuse me, in favor of the Pro Tour champion. I believe he won in Venice.
Yep.
Astral Slide.
Yep, beating former Magic great and now professional comedian Tommy Wallamies in the finals.
Oh, very nice. Osyp was playing a red-white deck then. He's playing a red-white deck now.
Mm-hmm.
Coming full circle here.
He also won that Pro Tour with effectively an 11 or 12 card sideboard because we thought Zombies was going to be a deck.
I guess you guys were wrong about that.
Didn't work out that way.
Oh, you can't get everything right. Here's a Bloodstained Mire. 3 more Goblin tokens here from Hordling Outburst. Everybody going to come into the red zone. Seeker of the Way is a 3/3, of course, due to prowess.
Also, the deck that Osyp kicked the crap out of round to win his Pro Tour, ironically enough, Goblins.
Neat.
Yeah.
You guys had a pretty good matchup against Goblins, I think.
Yeah. It's true. I wouldn't know. I didn't play against it once in route to 1-5ing or whatever. But
Oh, okay. Did you play Astral Slide at that tournament?
Same 75.
Yeah, well, there's no justice, I suppose.
I didn't even know how my cards really worked, so...
Oh, maybe that's why you didn't have a good tournament.
There's a lot... Listen, we're not here to assign blame. Who's to say where the blame ultimately lies?
Brad's going to try to figure out the best place to block her. He's going to go with Seeker. He'll trade there. 3 Hordling Outburst tokens will come through. Nelson will get to untap and take a draw step. He's at 4. He's got to try to beat 6 1/1s right now. Looks like he doesn't think he can do it, and he will concede the game. So Osyp Lebedowicz is going to win game number 1 here over Brad Nelson. Mardu Aggro up a game here over Green-White Devotion as we turn our attention to the sideboards. We will start with Nelson's. He's got 2 Nissa World Waker, 3 Boon Satyr, 2 Reclamation Sage, 2 Glare of Heresy, 4 Valor Stance, and then 2 High Sentinels Verishin.
Nothing is jumping out at me as being particularly great for this kind of matchup. I mean, the Glare of Heresies are fine, I suppose. But past that, I mean, we're really straining here. Maybe Boon Satyr comes in because he just needs to have some more action in the early game, some ability to block and trade. But This is a light sideboard for the matchup.
Well, if Osyp has a draw like that again, I don't know if Brad's going to be able to win.
Well, even
honestly.
setting aside a draw like that, none of these cards are striking me as being particularly good. High Sentinel strikes me as more for the mirror match and similar decks than necessarily here, but that may come in as well.
What do we see on the other side?
3 copies of Stormbreath Dragon, an Erase, an Utter End, 2 copies of Ash Cloud Phoenix, a Crackling Doom, a Valorous Stance, 2 copies of Mardu Charm, a Sorum Solemn Visitor, a Sarkhan the Dragon Speaker, 2 copies of Arc Lightning. So I really like the Erase in this matchup a lot. I wouldn't want a bunch of them, but 1 copy seems great because Brad just produces enough enchantments. The Utter End and the additional copy of Crackling Doom are nice answers to the big stuff. 2 copies of Ash Cloud Phoenix, pretty nice against Green White Devotion. They don't block flyers particularly well. Stormbreath Dragon might be a little bit too expensive for this kind of matchup, but I think Ash Cloud Phoenix is about the right cost. And the 1 Sarkhan can be basically a Stormbreath Dragon that can interact with the board. So some pretty solid options. The 1 Valorous Stance is great here too.
Well, these players are going to get ready here for game number 2. If you're not terribly familiar with Roto Aggro, we actually sat down with Brian Braun-Duin, a player who has played this deck to some success as well. We did a deck primer with him, so we'll get you guys caught up on that, and then we'll watch game number 2.
Red-White aggro thrives on speed and efficiency. It utilizes cheap and effective creatures like Seeker of the Way, Soulfire Grandmaster, and Goblin Rabblemaster to punch in enough damage to allow bigger bodies like Stormbreath Dragon to finish the job. Chain to the Rocks and Stoke the Flames can both be nearly free removal spells that handle most threats, and Hordeling Outburst is the glue that holds the deck together. It's effective against removal and helps fuel Stoke the Flames. Red-White aggro presents problems for any deck, but it's not invincible. It has a real weakness to cards like Hornet Queen, which is why Devotion strategies and Whip of Erebos strategies alike are able to prey on red-white aggro.
It's my favorite deck in Standard. It's not particularly close, and I actually love the Black Splash quite a bit. Osyp's deck list is a little bit different from Ben's, but Ben Stark I speak of, who also played this deck. We watched him yesterday playing its own Turtenwald, but I'm a big fan of just this style of deck is how I like to play Magic.
What's interesting about Osyp's build here, if someone wanted to splash black into red-white aggro, the first card that comes to mind is Crackling Doom, and both Ben Stark and Osyp played Crackling Doom in this tournament. The second card that Osyp is not playing, though Ben Stark did, is Thoughtseize.
Yep.
No copies in the list. Just 1 copy of Sorin and some Crackling Dooms, and a couple of Mardu Charms in the sideboard.
Yeah. I would want some Thoughtseizes. I like Ben's build. I mean, I like what Osyp's doing too. He's got some Sorins floating around here. I think that card's a little bit underplayed right now.
I'm never a huge fan of Thoughtseize in decks that care about every card their opponent draws.
Yeah, me too.
Thoughtseize I think is really powerful when you're playing a control deck and you're ignoring a portion of the deck, and it really magnifies all of their dead cards. Types of decks that Gerard builds, I think that Thoughtseize is exceptional. In decks that are just creatures and removal spells, I think it's a little overrated.
And both these players just about ready to go here. Lebedowicz won game number 1 very quickly. Got out of those mana troubles and kicked down the doors with Seeker of the Way and Hordeling Outburst, some timely removal spells. See what Brad can do now that he's on the play. Looks like he's going to keep. Lebedowicz will not. So he'll go back to the well.
So many great matches this weekend. You can see behind us up there on the left-hand side of your screen there, Patrick Chapin battling in a backup feature match.
Yep. We've got our 2 10-0s on our backup camera match, Andrew Boswell and Royce Walter.
Patrick Chapin couldn't even make the camera this round.
It's tough.
Not even camera worthy.
It's tough, man. Chapin playing Sultai Control this week, and we watched him play against Jerry Thompson in round 4 yesterday. Chapin had some mana issues there. That was one of his 2 losses on day number 1, but he is in the day 2 competition, as you can see, and a little bit of a run here. We could see him in the elimination rounds.
It's funny, we caught a lot of matches yesterday where player A loses and player A goes on to do very well, whereas player B sort of just falls by the wayside. The Owen Ben Stark match. The Chapin Jerry Thompson match.
Yep. Jerry started off with 2 buys, beat Matt Costa, beat Patrick Chapin, didn't win another match. Magic tournaments can be interesting sometimes, that's for sure. As Nelson starts off with a Elvish Mystic, Lebedowicz with a Temple of Triumph. See what Brad wants to do for a second turn. He'll go with the Nykthos. Voyaging Satyr, Elvish Mystic, pass the turn back, so he's going to try to ramp it up here.
And this is such a potent start here for Brad because so much of the red-white plan, the Mardu plan, is to keep mana accelerators down with things like Wild Slash and so forth. And now that's gone. Brad's got more than enough mana to work with, even if some of these mana creatures get picked apart, which means now Osyp has to fight over the big stuff, and that's something his deck's not as well equipped to do.
There's a Courser. We'll take a look at the top cards. Copy of Banishing Light. Nelson will play a Windswept Heath. He'll trigger the Courser, gain a life. And it's time for some beatdowns with Voyaging Satyr and Elvish Mystic. Lebedowicz will go down to 18. That'll be Nelson's turn. You see the top card of his deck is a Banishing Light. In his hand, he has another copy of Nykthos and Fleece Mainline. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him sacrifice away the Banishing Light thanks to the Windswept Heath.
Yeah, it's one of those spots where you want to give Osyp one more turn to see if he produces something that's worth a Banishing Light and probably shuffle it away. Because right now, Brad's on the hunt for just a big thing to do. Doesn't really matter what it is, but anything will play.
But I was going to search up a swamp. He's at 17. See if he has an Arc Lightning here. Doesn't have Anger of the Gods in his deck. Can't cast it at this point anyway, even if he did. He does have Arc Lightning in hand, so 2 to Voyaging Satyr, 1 to Elvish Mystic.
Arc Lightning is an odd duck against Green Devotion strategies because it's really, really good in the games where they draw Elvish Mystic and pretty poor besides.
Brad going to pause here. Doesn't look too thrilled at what's occurred. Those 2 mana accelerants are going to bite the dust. And it looks like he... Yep, this is the question, right?
I mean, Banishing Light's a pretty powerful magic card. You have to assume at some point Osyp's going to cast something that's going to warrant a Banishing Light.
Yep.
The other side of it is Brad's on the hunt for, he'd rather draw Pelucranos or Genesis Hydra or something like that. So do you give up this Banishing Light? He's got a lot of draws in his deck that are worse than Banishing Light, for sure. But the ceiling on his draws right now is so high that he might want to roll the dice.
Yeah, even he's not sure. All right, he's going to let it go. He'll get a Plains. This is all in the upkeep, of course, so we'll see what he's going to draw here thanks to Courser of Kruphix in just a moment. Definitely a tough decision there.
Yeah, that's not easy. I think that I like Brad's play. I would be on the hunt. Because it's possible Osyp's curve from here is just removal spells. And if you have a Banishing Light in your hand while he's killing all your stuff, it's not a good place to be.
Force will be the draw step, not what the doctor ordered. Next draw will be a Blossoming Sands.
Sweet, that's free.
That is free, so let's see what the next one is. Banishing Light. There
And we're
go.
back.
We are back to square one. There's an attack for 3. We'll have a Fleece Main line here in just a moment. And then we will be going back Lebedowicz's way. At least I think we'll have a Fleece Main line. Brad's certainly thinking about maybe not casting it, but he will deploy the 3/3, pass it back. 23 to 14, currently in favor of Nelson.
There is an argument for playing Fleece Main line in a spot where you have 7 mana, trying to go monsters in 1 turn, because it's pretty valuable right now, and there's a good chance it just dies, but it's too clunky to try to set up 7 mana right now. So you can see the momentary hesitation from Brad, but ultimately, I agree with just casting the Fleece Main line.
It's time for Osyp to go on the tank. Does have a Sarkhan, the Dragon Speaker in hand. But we're a little ways away from that. 2 copies of Hordling Outburst, and he's just going to pass the turn back. Now with 4 mana available, and of course 2 of it being red, a card like Stoke the Flames is certainly on your mind. Windswept Heath there as well. for Nelson. So
So-
he's starting to float out a little bit.
Osyp decided to go very big in this matchup, which is interesting.
Yeah.
He's going all the way to Stormbreath Dragon. I thought for sure the Ash Cloud Phoenixes would come in, but the Stormbreaths I didn't know if they were on his radar for 5 mana.
Crackling Doom going to take care of the Fleece main line. Pass the turn back over to Lebedowicz. He'll take a draw step. Another copy of Crackling Doom. Osyp just trying to stabilize out here and hope that Brad doesn't draw anything too problematic.
He can sit on his hands with Crackling Doom for a little bit if Brad's looking at a land next turn, or if he shows a problematic card on top of the deck, then that can inform Osyp's decision on what to do with that.
He'll go with Whirling Outburst. 3 Goblin tokens coming in. We'll go back Nelson's way. Top card, another land. It's a Plains. What's next? Temple of Plenty. He is flooding badly right now. And what's interesting about this is, as badly as Brad is flooding at this point, and it's pretty bad, it takes 1 draw step.
Yes.
It takes 1 Genesis Hydra, it takes 1 Master of the Unseen, maybe 1 Pelucranos, and he can turn this thing right back around because he's at 23.
The problem right now is if Osyp finds land number 5, things get bad real fast.
Oh, it's a real problem. Temple of Plenty, the draw. Take a look at the top card. Nykthos. Brad will tap that for a color, so put Nykthos into play. He'll gain a life. Next card, Sylvan Carry added.
And Brad kept a hand that was heavy on mana to begin with.
Yep.
It just needed 1 piece of action, and his draw steps have not cooperated thus far.
There's a Banishing Light to take care of the Ash Cloud Phoenix. Of course, he did have a colorless mana floating when he did tap the Nykthos and then play the other one. So now Nelson will just pass the turn back with no good attacks. He's hoping Lebedowicz doesn't draw land number 5. Osyp really wants to draw that so he can play maybe a Stormbreath Dragon. Here's 3 mana, maybe another Whirling Outburst. Yep, 3 more Goblin tokens. Stoke the Flames now, gonna slow down the Courser. Now you can start attacking too. I like this play here.
Yep.
Looks like Brad's gonna block pretty quickly. He says, I got all the mana I need.
At this point, Brad is trying to buy the maximum amount of time to find one of his big draws.
We know the top card of the deck is Carry added. So that's what he's drawing. He'll play a Temple. Take a look at the top. That one's going to the bottom too. Another brick for Nelson. Can Lebedowicz find land number 5? Yes and no.
That's fine, though. He's still sitting on Crackling Doom, so he has insurance against a lot of Brad's big draws. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And now land number 5 set up for Sarkhan and Stormbreath Dragon.
There's a block. Nelson down to 18. Lebedowicz will pass. Somebody needs a Master of the Unseen. There's a Windswept Teeth. Pass that turn back. Lebedowicz going to draw a card. It's a Plains. That'll come into play. And Stormbreath Dragon. Turn up the heat now. 8 damage going to come across. Nelson's down to 10. Does not take long for Stormbreath to close this game out. Nelson to draw a card. It's a copy of Courser of Crewfix. He'll play that. We'll see the top card of his deck here in just a moment. It's a Pelucranos. It's pretty late to the party.
Yeah, at this point, I think the damage has been done. And Osyp with another flyer in his hand in Sarkhan might be finishing off Brad next turn.
About to go to 11. We will head back Osyp's way. You mentioned the other flyer. That's Sarkhan. And he will be casting it. Actually, he'll go with Stormbreath Dragon. Either way, Flyers will get the job done. Lebedowicz is going to win this match here over Brad Nelson. 2-0. Mardu Aggro will take care of Green-White Devotion. Some unfortunate draws there for Nelson. Some pretty good ones there for Lebedowicz.
But you saw the power of Crackling Doom in that kind of matchup. But normally for Red-White Aggro, their Chain of the Rocks are really taxed because everything that's past 4 toughness requires something like that, and the deck is bringing Pelucranos and Genesis Hydra and